You wake up tired, not just physically, it's deeper, like your body got some rest, but your soul didn't. You sit on the edge of the bed for a second too long, staring at nothing, thinking about nothing, but feeling everything. And then you do what you always do. You get up, you go through the motions, shower, clothes, coffee, commute, work, scroll, smile, survive. And tomorrow, same thing. You don't cry, you don't scream, but some part of you is breaking, quietly, repeatedly. Like something important gave up a while ago, but forgot to let you know. It's not that anything's wrong on the outside, that's the part that messes with your head. Bills are paid, job's okay, you're functioning. And still, this question keeps showing up in the silence. What's the point of any of this? You weren't born asking that. You used to just live. You laughed for no reason. You played, you dreamed. You didn't need life to explain itself to you. You felt it. But then something shifted. You got older. The world started handing you rules, what to chase, who to be, what matters. And suddenly your life stopped feeling like yours. It became something to manage, something to get through. It's not just a bad day, it's not just burnout. It's a loop, and it keeps resetting itself every morning. Wake up, work, consume, pretend you're okay, repeat. They told you that's how it works. That's being an adult. That this grind is what success looks like. That you're supposed to grow up and contribute and not ask too many questions. But here's the thing. You followed the rules. You did what they said. And it still feels empty. You got the degree, the job, the routine, and somehow it all collapsed into a blur of meetings, emails, and weekends that feel like breathers before drowning again. You've become the machine. But part of you never stopped wondering. Why? That question isn't weakness. It's not a breakdown. It's the beginning of something honest, because once you ask it, really ask it, you can't go back. You start seeing the repetition for what it is, a loop, a cycle, a weight you carry every day without ever asking who put it there. French philosopher Albert Camus saw this. He looked at modern life and didn't sugarcoat it. He called it what it is, absurd, not as an insult, not as a joke, but as a diagnosis. He saw the man who wakes up every day to push the same boulder up the same hill. No reward, no escape, just effort, just motion. Sisyphus, the perfect metaphor for a life that never arrives. The image is brutal, but Camus didn't flinch. He looked straight at it and asked the question that still echoes today. What do you do when life has no built-in meaning, but you're still here? And here's the hard part. Most people never ask, or if they do, they bury it. They numb themselves with busyness. They chase promotions. They scroll until their mind goes blank. They call it being productive or focused or normal. But under it all, they feel it too. That quiet ache, that loop with no exit. That feeling that maybe, just maybe, you're not actually living, you're just enduring. So here we are, back to the same question. What's the point of any of this? Not as a joke, not as a complaint, as a real, urgent human question. One that doesn't get answered by success or comfort or control. And Camus, he didn't offer an escape, he offered something else. Something more dangerous, more honest, more real. But to get there, first, you have to understand the absurd. You felt it, that strange, heavy pause in your day, when everything looks normal, but none of it makes sense. You're doing the things, work, errands, maybe even smiling, but it's like you're watching yourself from across the room. You keep thinking, this can't be it. This can't be all there is. And then comes the guilt, because you should be grateful, right? You have what you need, maybe more. So why does life feel like background noise? Camus didn't think that made you weak. He thought it made you awake. He didn't write for people chasing happiness. He wrote for people sitting in silence, trying to make sense of it. He gave that feeling a name, the absurd. Not chaos, not nonsense, something colder, sharper. It's the moment you realize the world keeps spinning, and it doesn't care if you understand it. You want answers, you want meaning, but all you get is silence. That gap between what you hope life is and what it actually is. That's the absurd. It hits hardest when you stop pretending, when you drop the performance, when you stop chasing and sit still. That's when it creeps in. Camus didn't run from it. He stared it down. In the Myth of Sisyphus, he gave us the image. A man condemned to roll a boulder up a hill, every day, forever. No progress, no purpose, just motion. You read it and think that's dark, but is it? Or is it just true? Camus didn't dress it up. He didn't say it gets better, he said, this is the deal. You want life to mean something, life says nothing back. That clash, that's the heart of modern life. Not tragedy, not depression, just a question you can't shake. Why do I keep going? And here's what Camus got right. He didn't tell you to give up. He didn't tell you to believe either. He told you to look at the absurd and not look away. To see the loop, to see the boulder, to know that meaning isn't waiting at the top of the hill. And then, to keep pushing anyway. Because here's the twist most people miss. Camus wasn't saying life is hopeless. He was saying that once you admit it has no pre-built meaning, you're finally free to build your own. He called that freedom revolt. Not rebellion in the political sense, but the quiet, stubborn refusal to lie to yourself, to live fully, even when life refuses to explain itself. To show up, eyes open, no illusions. But that's not how most people live. Most people want comfort. They want a system, a script, a story to follow, religion, success, romance, productivity, anything to drown out the silence. But comfort doesn't give you meaning, it just puts you to sleep. And Camus? He wanted you awake, even if it hurts. Especially if it hurts, because that pain, that's the part of you that's still alive. So no, Camus didn't offer a happy ending. He offered something harder and more real. He told the truth. There is no fate that cannot be surmounted by scorn. Meaning, you don't need life to make sense. You need to stop pretending that it ever did. That's the beginning of freedom, but it's also where the collapse starts. Because once you admit the system is empty, the life you've built on top of it starts to crack. The job, the titles, the goals, it all starts to feel fake. And that feeling? That's not failure. That's the first honest moment you've had in years. They told you what life was supposed to be. Go to school, get the job, climb the ladder, find someone, buy things, stay busy. You followed the plan, or at least tried to. And now, you're here, functioning, doing everything right, and wondering why you feel nothing. They called it a life, but it feels more like a checklist. Wake up, check. Commute, check. Meetings, deadlines, fake smiles, check, check, check. Come home drained. Stare at a screen, scroll until your brain goes numb, sleep just enough to do it again. They call that adulthood. You're supposed to be proud of it. But it doesn't feel like growth. It feels like slow-motion suffocation. You don't hate your job, you don't hate your life, but none of it feels real. It's like you're playing a role in someone else's story. And deep down, you know it. Because the truth is, most of what we call normal is just repetition dressed up as responsibility. And most of what we chase, it's noise, promotions, likes, titles, followers, all of it built to distract you from the fact that you're still asking, why am I doing this? But asking that question makes people uncomfortable. So we don't. We keep our heads down. We keep pretending. We laugh at things that aren't funny. We get excited about sales and paydays and weekend plans. We talk about being grateful. We talk about self-care. But deep down, a part of you is still whispering, this isn't it. This can't be it. Camus knew this lie. He saw people trying to find meaning in systems that were never built to provide it. He saw the way society packages absurdity and sells it back to you as the dream. But the dream doesn't fill the hole. It hides it. Until one day, you can't hide from it anymore. And that's when things fall apart. Not in some dramatic explosion. More like a quiet breakdown. You wake up one day and realize you don't believe in the things you've been working for. Not the job, not the image, not the version of success you were taught to chase. You start seeing it all for what it is, a survival game. A system that rewards obedience, not meaning. A loop designed to keep you occupied, but never awake. So what do you do with that? You can't unknow it. You can't go back to pretending. You're not lost. You're just no longer willing to be asleep. That's not a crisis. That's a clearing. That's the part where things get quiet, and the old story starts to crumble. But here's where it gets dangerous. Because when the lie falls apart, most people don't know what to replace it with. They reach for anything. Productivity hacks, lifestyle goals, purpose brands. They try to rebuild the same prison with different walls. But the problem was never your schedule. It was the meaningless underneath it. And you can't fill that with noise. This is the turning point. This is where you either fall back asleep or face something harder. The truth that life isn't here to hand you meaning. It's here to ask if you're brave enough to create it. Camus didn't say burn it all down. He said, look at it clearly. Without fantasy. Without fear. And then, decide. What are you going to do when the system you built your life around doesn't mean anything anymore? Once you see the loop, you can't unsee it. The job, the errands, the empty rewards, all of it starts to look like noise. And when the noise stops, you're left with a silence that's hard to sit with. Because now you know. You know the script doesn't work. You know the chase is hollow. You know that meaning isn't built into any of this. And that kind of truth, it's too much for most people. So they numb out. Not with drugs, not always. Most of the time, it's quiet. Scrolling, shopping, working too much, talking too little, staying busy just to stay distracted. Because facing the absurd means facing yourself. And that's the part nobody teaches you how to do. It's easier to keep pretending, to buy the next thing, set the next goal, act like clarity is just one more achievement away. But it's not. You don't escape the absurd by leveling up. You don't outsmart it with productivity. You sit with it, and you let it sting. Camus didn't say to fix it, he said to face it. To live in full awareness of the absurd, and still choose to be alive. Still choose to get up. Still choose to act, even when you know the universe isn't clapping for you. That's the quiet rebellion. That's the real strength. Most people think rebellion is noise, but in a world built on distraction, stillness is a weapon. Choosing to feel, choosing to care, choosing to stay awake when everything pushes you to sleep. That's revolt. Not anger, not noise, presence. But here's the hard part. Feeling everything hurts. When you stop numbing, the grief shows up. For the time you lost, for the person you were pretending to be, for the meaning you were promised but never found. You might cry, you might rage, you might feel emptier than ever. But that emptiness, that's the space where real life begins. You have to clear out the noise to hear yourself again. That means letting go of fake goals, of false meaning, of the idea that life has to feel good to be worth living. Camus called it revolt, but it's not dramatic. It's quiet. It's internal. It's showing up to life without a script. It's saying, no, this doesn't make sense. But I'm here, and I'm choosing to stay. That's the core of it. Not hope, not belief, but presence. The absurd doesn't go away, but it loses its power over you when you stop running from it, when you stop expecting life to hand you meaning, and start creating something that matters to you. You can still love, still build, still care. Not because it all makes sense, but because you decided it's worth it anyway. That's not optimism, that's courage. The kind that comes after the breakdown. The kind that can't be faked. You want peace? Stop lying to yourself. Stop distracting yourself. Feel the weight of it all, and then stand up anyway. That's not weakness, that's power. Camus didn't give you an answer. He gave you a mirror, and the reflection might scare you, but it's real. And that makes it worth facing. So you've stopped pretending. You've faced the silence. You've seen the absurd for what it is. Now comes the part no one prepares you for. What do you do with that truth? You're standing in the ashes of the story you were told. The rules are gone, the script is useless, and the old goals feel like someone else's life. This is the moment most people panic. They scramble to patch the hole. chase new goals, invent new distractions. But here's the truth. You don't need to find meaning. You need to build it. The world isn't going to hand you a reason to wake up in the morning. It never was. Camus didn't offer meaning. He offered freedom. Not the kind that feels good. The kind that demands something from you. You're not waiting for life to reveal itself. You're shaping it with every choice you make. Even the small ones. Meaning isn't hiding in the mountains. It's not locked inside a book. It's not waiting in the next job or the next relationship. It shows up when you do. When you create, when you connect, when you decide, this moment matters. Not because it's special, because I say it does. That's authorship, that's agency, that's rebellion. You've been trained to believe you're powerless, that you're just a piece in a bigger machine, that the most you can hope for is comfort. But here's the shift. You're not a piece. You're the player. You choose how you move. You choose what matters. Even in the middle of the absurd, especially in the middle of the absurd, your choices are the meaning. The boulder is still there. The hill is still steep. The repetition is still real. But now it's your hill. Now you know why you're pushing. Not for some reward, not for applause, but because pushing the boulder is an act of will. A refusal to give in. A refusal to shut down. It's your quiet way of saying, this is mine. There's no finish line. No ultimate answer. There's only the next step, the next act, the next breath you take with intention. And in that breath, you make life yours again. That's not cliché, that's not poetry, that's the brutal, beautiful truth of existence. It only means something if you say it does. So what now? You wake up, and this time you don't just survive the day. You show up in it. Not to win, not to escape, but to live like it matters, because it does, because you do. Camus ended the Myth of Sisyphus with a line that still echoes. One must imagine Sisyphus happy, not because he solved life, but because he stopped waiting for life to solve itself. He accepted the wait, he embraced the repetition, and in that choice, he became free. You can too. Stop outsourcing your meaning, stop waiting for permission. Start owning what you feel. Start creating what matters. Start living like none of this makes sense, and doing it anyway. Because the question was never, what's the point of any of this? The real question is, what point will you give it? If this made you stop and think, share it. Someone else out there's asking the same question, and they haven't heard it put like this. And if you want more of this, subscribe. Not for tips, not for hacks, for truth. The kind most people avoid. That's it. Like, subscribe, share it with someone who's awake or trying to be.